Thanks for tuning in, folks. We're looking at the sun at 171 angstroms. The last 8.5 hours, we see geomagnetic unrest with a KP of 4. We're going to give you a 1 minute lead time and then join you. And we're going to blast through this space weather report. All right, welcome to the coronal hole wind stream, folks. You are currently inside of one. Let's look at some other views of the sun before we look at a lot of other stuff. We'll look at the colored magnetogram here, as we do see an active region right near the kind of middle of the solar equator there. Doesn't look like a sunspot, although it does have potential. Check it out. There's the field. And you see it could be developing some umbra there. So that's something to watch throughout the day. Minor active region there. And slightly north of the solar equator makes that a reverse polarity plow. So that is a cycle 25 feature. We'll see if that continues to gain in complexity. Let's look at the 193 angstroms view also for coronal hole watch. A small one just south of the equator, a little bit east of that active region. All right. We'll look at one more view here while we've got the current data loaded. We're going to look at the intensity gram in orange. And that has become a sunspot. So that's, there you go. There's a cycle 25 sunspot for you, folks. Look for that to get named today. I believe it's 2742 will be the name of that sunspot. And let's move on to the real-time solar wind, which we see quite elevated here, well over 500. In the 530 range there, 530 kilometers per second solar wind speed. That's what's got the KP index elevated to a geomagnetic unrest level of 4. Solar wind density still elevated a little higher than normal background levels here at about 7 protons per cubic centimeter. And the phi angle's looking like it's around 300. BZ is negative, around -3 right now, not exceedingly negative, and the field is not exceedingly strong. That is the BT, the black line in the top frame. Let's look at the magnetosphere movies, as we should see some significant impacts here. That high-speed wind just came in a couple hours ago, so we should catch the whole thing in the stream. We did get started a little later than expected today, and allow us to let the velocity play through. Hoping everybody had a lovely holiday weekend, as I got an extended weekend myself. Anyway, there's the velocity, and you see some striations of higher velocity wind coming in there at the end of the movie. Here's the density. fairly normal. You should see some perturbations right there at the end, caused by the increased wind speed. And here's the pressure, and you should see that impact very obviously in this magnetosphere movie. There should be some active aurorae near both poles, as well as Jupiter and Saturn visible in the early morning skies. Anyway, there's the pressure on the magnetosphere movies. Here are the ground perturbations. We should expect to see some significant perturbations here over northern Canada, even the northern US. We're looking at 300 nanoteslas there. And the South Pole looks like a big Birkeland current. Check out that spiral shape. If you're not noticing it, there's the one arm, there's the other arm. We'll let that play through a second time here as there are significant perturbations. Hotspot in between Western Australia and Antarctica, as we typically see, as well as over Baffin Bay, Canada. Move up to the globe view, and we should see significant magnetic spillover here. We see magnetism stretching over the entire Atlantic Ocean, across South America, the Indian Ocean, and that's what we call geomagnetic unrest. So, great illustration of it using a lot of magnetometers. And that coronal hole wind stream is the cause of that. There are protons incoming, folks. Protons incoming. We're going to see very low electron flux levels, as we typically do during a coronal hole wind stream event. Very low electron flux, even on the equator. So everybody's GPS should be having very minimal errors today, and there shouldn't be a lot of satellite drag. Let's talk about smAsho and the mission, which is to assist, study, and report on the ongoing formation of a unified theory of physics. It's kind of important. I've been concerned with it since the 90s. Also, to raise the awareness of the general public of the relationship between space weather and Earth effects. A lot of folks out there don't seem to understand that there are relationships, as Earth weather equals space weather and vice versa. Also, to connect, to consult with media organizations to multiply our reach. Eventually, we'll get through to one of those national radio shows, so keep listening. To demonstrate cutting-edge proof of concept solutions to problems, such as in our video from yesterday. If you haven't seen that one, we'll show you a clip as a teaser. Check out youtube.com/mashomash if you haven't so far. Please subscribe. Also, to publish scientific papers in a multidisciplinary manner, including sciences such as spectroscopy, chemistry, astrophysics, health, wellness, longevity, cosmology, biology, magnetohydrodynamics, geology, and not limited to those sciences. To assist mankind by advancing the study of predictive phenomenon in order to optimize value, reduce risk and liability, save lives and resources, and adapt no matter what the adversity is, and to not be ossified in our beliefs, and to treat those who are with love, respect, and inclusion to the scientific discussion, as the science is never settled on anything ever. All the best scientists are trying to disprove their own theories right now. So follow us on Patreon. Every little bit counts. Thanks, patrons. There will be exclusive content there eventually. Again, every little bit counts. Check the links in the description. There's a lot of stuff, including original music in there. Check out this article from Medical Express. Does being seen really make cyclists safer on the road? Well, that's a dumb title. They should have made a better title. The moral of the story is this. I don't want to share it. I want that crap off my screen. The moral of the story is this. You see that arrow on the back of the reflective vest? Turns out that having that reflective directional arrow on your clothing made a statistical difference, at least according to the study that was done here. The sample size wasn't great, but it seemed to have the most effect, a greater effect than just high-vis stuff. So we've got links in the description already if you want to read the article about being seen, pedestrian deaths, etc. There are reasons why we're able to ride thousands of miles a year and not get taken out. It's not a coincidence. A lot of people go out and crash. If you're interested in track racing or riding on the track, check out theveloshop.net if you'd like to buy a bike, such as the Felt TK2, a great mid-level track bike here. It's pretty nasty. It's just an aluminum bike, but that will go the distance if you want to take up the sport of track racing. Now, kids, don't try this at home. Don't try to ride a pursuit bike with no helmet on the track like me. That's a very dumb thing to do. Just kidding, folks. It's not really me. It's just my head photoshopped on some other rider in a blatantly bad fashion. This is what I really look like. And I think I'm doing a 4K pursuit, and that, which is a track time trial, the longest track time trial. Again, visit the links in the description if you want to help support the channel and keep the videos in existence. Let's check out solarham.net. We'll look at the LASCO C3. This is 48 hours, and that is Mercury about to leave the frame to the left. We don't really see any ejecta here, so let's move on to other things, as there are still a lot of things. All right, talking about solar minimum, 10.7 centimeter radial flux is back up to 68. Again, the KP is at 4. So yeah, coronal hole wind stream has arrived out of that coronal hole that's rotating out of the Earth-facing region, actually out of the visible disk period. Here's the telemetry, which isn't clicking. We'll just use the ACE. There you see the ACE with the solar wind up above 500 kilometers per second. And the density's still spiking around. Often we see the density drop off right away. It did drop off right at the beginning here, but still remained fairly high. So it's a significant solar wind speed, and we do see some perturbations in the BTBZ as a result, as would be expected, as well as a magnetometer. Should be a fairly long-lived stream, and since it was a very, very well-formed coronal hole, it's probably going to be kind of on and then off. I don't expect it to look sputtering at all. When this KP starts coming back down, it's just going to come back down because solar minimum conditions are in effect, folks. We see a tiny bit of charging hazard there. No big deal. The F2 layer is very discharged. Again, we saw very low levels of electron flux, and the F2 layer is highly discharged on the sun side and the night side. You see heavily discharged here over Antarctica especially, and South America. So we should be expecting to see that charge back up over the next couple days, assuming nothing else happens. There are the Aurora forecasts. I would have expected them to be a little beefier than that. If you're in those areas, I would go out and look up. Shout out Canadians. If you see auroras, leave a comment. And thanks for joining us and leaving comments. Gregory and Harry and Skippy. Guten Morgen. And let's just look at the greater than 2 mega electron volt electron fluence. And this is well updated, and we've been seeing very low electron flux. These are the kind of the mid-level electrons. There's also a greater than 10 mega electron volt electron fluence that's followed. We won't look at that today. I would note that we were making videos back here in late August when it was at ridiculously high levels for an extended period of time, causing all kinds of satellite drag. And let's continue on, as there's still a lot of stuff to cover. Thanks again for tuning in, folks. Check out this article, Direct Measurement of the Cosmic Ray Proton Spectrum with the Calais on the ISS. Yeah, they're doing some measurements of the ultra-high energy cosmic ray stuff. Here's a diagram of their calorimeter, and there are links in the description already for further reading about Calais' cosmic ray measurements. We're going to skip earthly cosmic ray stations. Let's look at transients real quick. Let's look at Sagittarius A star. That's the galactic core of the Milky Way galaxy, if you weren't aware, folks. If you weren't spaced out enough to be aware of that, there are the transients at Sagittarius A star. Essentially a ramping down of its activity over the past couple of weeks. Let's also look at radio galaxy Cygnus A, which just happens to be the second strongest radio signal in the sky, second only to the sun, despite being over 500 million light years distant. And we see its activity ramping down in a quite similar fashion to Sagittarius A star. Let's look at a massive object also in the constellation Cygnus, but within our own galaxy, Cygnus X1, a quote black hole, end quote. There are the transients from Cygnus X1. Stephen Hawking and Carl Sagan believed this to be a black hole, and those guys are now fossilized remains of astronomy as astrophysics gets rewritten. Thank goodness for astrophysics getting rewritten. And let's look at my favorite, otherwise known as Deneb, Cygnus X3, one of the most reliable cosmic ray sources in the entire sky. And we actually see a similar chart here. Why is that? Well, I'll have to tell you, since you're actually viewing the station. The reason is because Cygnus X3 and the Sun and the galactic core and Cygnus A are all somewhat directly connected. So you see a very similar graph there. Now, you can also look at totally different things that have no graph at all like that, such as the Vela pulsar. Which actually did have a very, very dense burst of transients here around day 131. Now that's located in a different part of the sky, folks. But anyway, if you're not familiar with the significance of the constellation Cygnus, then DuckDuckGo search something. Go to DuckDuckGo or whatever search engine. Read up on Cygnus. It's a pretty important constellation. And there's a reason why the ancients thought that it was the birthplace as well as the celestial home of life itself. Here's the gong too, and we do see some very direct lines here to the corona, as well as, let me just go to the last frame. Whoops. go to the last frame here so I can explain this. This region right here is probably a sunspot. It looks like one from stereo A. We're not going to really go into it today. But this region right here, where you see the lines just end here at the outer corona, that's because there's something holding that plasma there. And so we're going to have field disparity between this area and this area coming up soon. Keep in mind this data is 2 hours and 6 minutes old. I'll let that play through again. You can tell a lot about solar activity by looking at this image if you understand what you're looking at and if you understand magnetohydrodynamics. Skip stereo A entirely. Very interesting story. Shout out to Anomalous Howard if you're listening. Here's a phys.org article by Christine Bonnet, Helmholtz Association of German Research Centers. From Helmholtz Zentrum Dresden Rosendorf. Thanks, guys. Super interesting article here about the 11-year sunspot cycle and how it seems to be related to tidal activity. Now, a lot of folks already know this, in which case, more power to you. We've talked about it on our channel before, thanks to Howard. Anyway, the tidal forces are strongest when there is maximum Venus-Earth-Jupiter alignment, a constellation that occurs every 11.7 years. We're not going to get into all kinds of weeds about solar dynamo models and so on, but read the article as it appears to be the real deal. And not particularly surprising to electric universe folks and folks that understand things like magnetohydrodynamics. Here's the location of the planets right now. As Earth creeps up on Jupiter, Venus will eventually make the turn. Just so you know, if you know how these things relate to the situation at hand, let's advance the planets 1 week. So Venus is approaching an oppositional alignment here, where Earth, Venus, Sun, and Jupiter will all be in a line. And that does affect solar activity, folks. It does affect solar activity. We're not going to get into how it affects solar activity because it's pretty complicated. But let's just move on to a star chart. If you're not familiar with in-the-sky.org, make your own star chart for what's above your head. As the moon has just risen, it's in a waning gibbous. You'll also see Saturn and Jupiter if your skies are clear enough out on the ecliptic. Question is, where were you when Cygnus rose? Where were you when Cygnus rose and became understood as some sort of progenitor of the entire galaxy? Is that too controversial? Check us out on Instagram.com/smAsho.
I think it's about time. The atherosclerosis hasn't.
Remember, I'm not only the smAsho president, I'm also a client in that I watch my own videos. Because I'm making these on a small screen and then watching them on a big screen. Also follow us on Twitter. Although I don't tweet, it will give you the ability to share the posts. And there's over 80 of them already. Also, check us out on Facebook.com/smAsho. And let's see if it tries to display the phone number for the 4th day in a row. Hey, Mark, how's your share price doing, Mark? Also, follow us on minds.com/smAsho, the social media site that will not censor you. We like to have constructive criticism. We also have a brand new Gab page, gab.com/smAsho. Check us out there. And if you've got any feedback or anything like that, hey, send feedback to smAshomash@gmail.com. Or if you want to sponsor the cycling team, it's still possible to get on the jerseys. 2 of my next prospective clients are brave.com and duckduckgo.com. Now, we made a video yesterday about indoor farming and so on, Jerusalem artichokes. So if you haven't checked that out yet, check that out. Here's a clip.
And we're looking to modify the spouting here and to make sure we get the right amount of soakage.
I'm going to install some sort of a soaker hose setup in there that secretly sequesters a little bit of water. Doesn't alert code enforcement officers.
There's another one.
Because I can't stand code enforcement officers. Anyway, there's some stuff about that. I wanted to show you real quick this setup.
So
where I've used organic egg crates as sprouting containers. And these are my indoor tomatoes. So if you've been following that little saga, watch yesterday's video. It's less than 6 minutes long. And we will not leave links in the description. You need to go to youtube.com/smAsho and press subscribe, please. 1,358 subscribers. You see an earthquake downtick as we got a 4.6 in Mayotte. Right, the African Rift Zone, folks. African Rift Zone. 4.5 at a very deep depth at Fiji. Let's take a quick look at that as it's nearly 600 kilometers. There is a location kind of south of Fiji and Tonga. We also see a 2.7 in Colorado, so that's pretty rare there. And we're going to cover one that just came in California also. Here's a 4.5 in Vanuatu. That one's at depth. Heads up there, folks, for a larger quake at the surface. 4.5 at Peru at depth. Another blot echo at Peru. So heads up Peru. Another quake at the surface coming. 4.7 at Indonesia. Also at depth. 4.8 at Kurilsk. South of Kamchatka, also at depth. So we see a downtick of serious earthquakes at the surface and an uptick of serious deep quakes. So be on alert, folks. This is the kind of thing that signals the big one, I would imagine, as almost all the 4 magnitude plus quakes are at depth. Indonesia, heads up there. Dominica, heads up there. Largest quake in the Caribbean for quite a while, also at depth. So lastly, I would note this one here, a 2.6 at negative 0.3 kilometers, folks. So that's probably volcanic activity, although it could be a frac quake. It is up 300 meters above the surface, indicating that it is on a mountain. There's a location. Shout out Californians. That looks like a volcano. Check it out. Perfectly cone-shaped mountain right there. So possible magmatic activity going on in California. Shout out if you're aware of the volcanism of the region, as I have no idea and I don't have time for it. We're moving on to other stuff as if we're evacuating from some kind of Osama bin Laden raid, because there's a lot of stuff to do. There are a lot of miles to pedal today. In secret location. Oh yes, the secret late spring training camp, folks. Oh no. So we have a powerful low here off of Alaska. There's also a low north of Japan there. Drawing the earthquake warning zones. If you're in these regions, be ready for a large surface quake, as really the 7 and 8 magnitude earthquake drought is not over, despite having a few. They have not been deadly surface quakes. So if you're in those areas especially, be on alert. Be an asset, not a liability, in the event of a disaster, as you are the cavalry. Let's let this play through to see where the pressure is going to be moving. We're looking for lows, folks, lows. So here's a low. Here's a low. Here's a low. There's one. There's one. Shout out New Zealand. Low's going to hit you. And let's just advance this because it's taken forever. Just advance this to Monday. Can't really rock these back and forth because there are particles. And we will crash the live stream. So again, thanks for joining everybody. Good morning, y'all. Blow this up a little bigger. There we go. All right. Got some more stuff to get to yet, folks, so bear with us. And we are moving on to volcanoes. All right. Don't worry, folks. It wasn't a train wreck. Volcano rundown. Karimsky producing a 15,000-foot ash plume. Dakono producing a 7,000-foot ash plume. Continuous emissions and explosive activity. Reventador producing a 17,000-foot ash plume. Sabancaya. Don't pole vault over Sabancaya, folks. Don't, if there's a zip line going over Sabancaya right now, don't take that zip line, as there is explosive activity in a 24,000-foot ash plume. It would be unwise. Child abduction emergency in Texas. The Henderson Police Department is searching for Ariel Smith, black female, age 2, date of birth April 13th, 2017, height 2 feet 1 inch, 39 pounds, black braided hair and brown eyes. Victim was last seen at 10:25 p.m. last night, May 28th, 2019, at the Henderson Village Apartments, 1480 Highway 259 South, apartment 327, Henderson, Texas, wearing a white t-shirt. There is a 2-inch scar on the right side of her neck. Police are searching for Lamarcus Smith, black male, age 41, date of birth September 12th, 1971. And I don't know how he's 41 and having that birth date, but let's continue on. Height 6'0", weight 180, black hair and brown eyes, last seen wearing a white t-shirt and blue jeans in connection with this abduction. There is a tattoo on his chest and right arm. He's driving an unknown vehicle, and law enforcement officials believe the child to be in grave or immediate danger. If you have any information, please contact the Henderson Police Department at 903-657-3512. Here's the National Weather Service map. There's lots of floods on it, including a flood watch where I am. So hopefully I won't have to ride my bicycle through any hub-deep water today. We'll see what happens. I did it before, I'll do it again. And it looks like horrific conditions in places like Missouri, Iowa, and Illinois especially. Not to mention more severe thunderstorms all over the place in places such as Texas and Arkansas. Jeez. Yeah, flash flood warnings. Man, oh man. Central U.S. is just not getting a respite, folks. And massive tornado hit Kansas. Let's just zoom in on this storm for a minute. Actually, let's zoom in on the one that's hitting Pennsylvania, because it's pissing me off, and I was cursing at the rain yesterday. So it didn't care, but I swore nonetheless. At least I got some riding in, about a 6-miler. So yeah, racking up big numbers yesterday, folks, big numbers. And we are about to get hit with some more rain. Great. Everything is cold and clammy. Check out the massive tornado that hit Kansas. This thing was pretty scary. We're going to keep the audio off. Do not ban us, YouTube. All right, that I don't even know what I was seeing there. I wish I wish I was a fish. It's a beautiful day out if you're a fish. Do I train in the rain? Yes. That is one hell of a big tornado for real. I'll bet that's an F4. Anyway, major structural damage. Lightning maps to see if any's creeping up on me as it was earlier. Looks like it's simmered down. Shout out Arkansas. That looks rural. Heavy lightning coming down in Arkansas. If you're on a camping trip right now watching this via some kind of mobile internet connection, leave a comment. We're going to look at the water vapor map, give you an idea of what's going on above your head. Damn, that is a serious storm. I didn't expect it to have that much lightning, but it's one serious convergence. And total cosmic ray flux looking clouds right there, folks. Check out all the parallel lines and the crisscrossing lines there. It's not chemtrails. It's not contrails. It's electromagnetic radiation in the atmosphere. Wow, that is a serious convergence there. And that same place is going to get hit more right after Texas does, as these storms here are going to keep moving. There's just enough space in that dry air there. It's going to keep convecting. Anyway, let's move on, as this video is probably getting long now. Still encourage you to understand the difference between your ass and a hole in the ground. So let's talk about malware. Your smartphone is infested with
malware,
software designed to interfere with a computer's normal functioning. Now you're probably thinking, my smartphone doesn't have a virus. And that's true. The malware is by the manufacturer of the OS. Let's talk about non-malware. Brave browser. They're on a mission to fix the web, while the companies to which I just referred are on a mission to break the web. You're not a product. And neither are your searches, because you want objective results. So setting a new standard of trust online and empowering people to take control of their information is DuckDuckGo. Located in Paoli, PA, and consisting of only 67 people. They just know how to write code. Formed in 2008, and I think we've got links to the About page, duckduckgo.com/about. Teaches you all kinds of ways to dodge all of the spam and nonsense. Now, we're not saying don't get a VPN. We're saying do get a VPN, but DuckDuckGo is another way to avoid having your free speech eliminated by left-wing activists in big tech. Link to this article also in the description currently from Zero Hedge. There's another Zero Hedge. 42 people shot in Chicago over Memorial Day weekend. Only 7 killed, so not quite as many as last year, but more wounded. So it's a mixed bag in Chicago, a mixed bag where you can't buy a gun unless you're a criminal. So how's that working out? Chicago, Illinois has some of the strictest gun laws in the whole country. It's practically impossible to get a carry permit there. How's that working out for you, Illinois? How's your little Democrat Party leftist experimentation going on? Is that a good social experiment, or is that a bad social experiment? Here's another Zero Hedge article about the S&P tumbling as the Aussie bond yield curve inverts. Bad news for the Australian dollar and for US stocks. So let's look at a little bit more into markets. That link is also in the description, by the way, folks. So click on that and visit our links. First thing we're going to look at is crypto. Here's the Bitcoin chart. And we're going to look at the 1 year, actually. Bitcoin losing a little money over that chart, whatever that was. Got to let that load. I apologize for the delay. I'll bring out the chat in the meantime. Good morning, Kitchener, Ontario. All right, this is not loading, and it is pissing me off. Let's look at the 1 month. Here's the 1 month Bitcoin chart. Not bad, not bad. Although I have sidelined my crypto. I've gotten completely out of crypto, folks, completely out of crypto. Let's also look at Ethereum. We use the Coinbase graph. These are going to be about the same graph because these things follow each other very closely, at least the major cryptocurrencies. So here's the 1 month of that. Practically the same chart as Bitcoin. Let's look at some other more fundamental and traditional type investments. We're just going to look at the S&P to keep our viewers informed of things that they may not have otherwise looked up. There's the S&P over the 1 month, down almost 1%. And here's the 1 year chart of the S&P. Off its highs a little bit. A little bit of profit taking in the market is a healthy thing. We used to typically use 30% and not try to do stupid things like double our money, which is something I did in the past 2 months in cryptocurrency. But all my money is sidelined now, folks. All my money is sidelined. It was only a small proof of concept investment, and perhaps I'll cover the way it worked at a later time. And let's look at the US dollar index. As we see, the dollar is looking strong, up 8 cents. There's the 1 year chart. So the Fed not planning to raise or lower interest rates, planning to hold fast. Silver is all the way down to $14.36. That is insane. I can't believe how low that is. I'm not trying to give you investment advice here or tell you to buy silver, but we did call it at its low back here. I mean, $14 is a serious downward support level. Wow. I can't believe silver's still that low. That's amazing. Let's look at wheat. As wheat has been going up, finally we're seeing a spike in wheat, even though we've been talking about the increase coming in prices for all of this stuff for over 2 months. So we're 2 months in talking about how these prices are going to increase, and there you have it. I mean to say I told you so, but I told you so. We're also going to look at corn. Oh, did soybeans spike too? I think soybeans spiked also, folks. Yep, there's an uptick in soybean finally, as these indicators have really lagged. I don't know if those commodity traders were on vacation. Maybe that's what was going on. You guys hanging out with Peter Schiff down in Puerto Rico or what? Because this stuff is finally pricing into the market. Check out the spike in corn prices. At least a month and a half ago, it was called on this channel. Anyway, let's move on before we become old and gray, because there's still more stuff to cover, such as wild new study links humans walking upright to exploding stars millions of years ago. According to this hypothesis, supernova could have bathed Earth in cosmic radiation beginning about 8 million years ago and peaking about 2.6 million years ago, which would have ionized the lower atmosphere. causing fires and trees to burn down and all kinds of crazy soot layers and black mats and things. So another interesting hypothesis, as when you find carbon-60 laying around, not carbon-60, iron-60, when you find iron-60 isotopes laying around, that doesn't come out of Earth. So another interesting article, links in the description to that also. Let's look at some more images of the sun and then run out of this room like Jackie Joyner Kersey. "94 angstroms for maximum temporal resolution," right? This takes 5 more images per second than the other cameras do. So again, as we noted yesterday, we do see an active region rising here. It looks like a sunspot from the perspective of stereo A. If you're interested in that, go look it up. And if you've got any questions or comments, now's a good time to leave them, as we are about to roll out of here. And finally, there's a 211 angstroms view. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry if you thought the video was too long, but we are out of here. Thanks, donors, subscribers. Please don't forget to press like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, as we are approaching our 365-day anniversary of making daily space weather videos every single day. More content possibly to come out later this afternoon. And again, please visit the links in the description, as there is a lot of other information to look up. Speaking of look up, we invite you to do so, since it'll never be now again. May the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your veins. And also remember, when you're staring at the sun, use the proper instruments like the SDO. Don't drink. And if you drink, don't drive.